I'm Tina Green. Welcome to the Wise Women Circle. I guess this is our last one of the summer because the next one it will officially be fall. We have these the third Sunday of every month, and there's a different speaker each month. And so you're welcome to come back um, if this is your first time. And I am located here in Northern California and trying to enjoy the last bits of summer weather. I'm sitting in my garden and so the first, we have our guest Madrone Kalil here with us today. And the first thing I'm going to do is just have us drop in a little bit, and then and then we'll get going. Okay. So if you feel comfortable, go ahead and close your eyes, and we're just going to take a nice deep breath. Nice deep breath, breathing into your heart. And actually, go ahead and put your hands over your heart for a minute, because when you put your hands on your heart and you stay there for a little while, it actually raises your oxytocin levels, and it just feels so good. So let's go ahead and just drop into our bodies um and be right here and let go of everything it took for you to get here. Any technical challenges, anything you had to set aside, or let go of your to-do list and just be right here, right with us in the Wise Women Circle. And, one of the things that I'll talk about a little bit, I'm very passionate about self-love. So, one of the things I'm going to ask you to do is honor who you are, Sarah, Beverly, Petruska, and Madrone, and why you're here. How can you assist our world? Because when you make peace with yourself and you have self-love and acceptance, these questions will be answered and your sacred path becomes clear. So as we open up our hearts, take another deep breath. And we will call in anybody that you want to call in to be here in this conversation about death. We're going to talk about death today. So, call in any helpers or guides or higher powers that you might have just to be with you for the conversation. And with that, I'll invite you to open your eyes and come back to the room. Come back to the Zoom room. Hello, Petruska. Hopefully you can hear us. Welcome. So a little bit more about myself. So again, I'm Tina Green, and I I'll just say I'm passionate about helping people cultivate their self-love, and continuing to have, be myself on the path of really always cultivating my self-love. And I'm finding deeper and deeper ways to do this. I just took a journey to Peru, and you know, this Peruvian shaman we were working with, his name's Jorge Luis Delgado. He talks a lot about bringing in the light and really being, um, they worship the sun a lot in Peru. It's a big part of their world, grandfather sun. And so it's all about bringing in the light. And what he's really added to his teachings, because I've been with him before, he's really added self-love into his teaching. Like, really bringing in that light is also bringing in the self-love and acceptance. And I was really excited about that. So recently, I pulled together a group of women and we created this book called The Life-Changing Power of Self-Love. And Madrone was one of the co-authors of that. Beverly was one of the co-authors of that. And that's kind of where this Wise Women Circle was born, out of that, because I really wanted, like, the women who wrote in this book are amazing. And I really wanted to, you know, build a community around the book, and give each author, each co-author, the ability to do a little teaching and share their wisdom. And it's been really fun to do that. It's almost been a year now. We're coming up on our 1 year anniversary, and we're planning a little celebration up here in Northern California. So you'll hear that if you're attached to me online in any way. But really, the whole point of this is to really uplift women, and um, and just have us connect and share wisdom. And so Madrone and I met through the book. We have a common friend, Stephanie, who introduced us, and she thought that Madrone might be a great person to write in the book. And Madrone and I talked, and we hit it off instantly. We had like an hour-long conversation. I was like, wow, I feel like I've known her forever. And yeah, and she said yes, and I was so thrilled that she said yes. And she wrote a chapter called "You're Not Broken." Um, what was the subtitle? Finding love in the pain points. And it's really a beautiful chapter about having chronic pain, and being able to even given that, love yourself, and find a way to, and through self-love, be able to thrive in life. So it's really beautiful. um Madrone is a lover of mystery and a believer in magic. She's a community weaver who has led sacred circles and ceremonies for the past 18 years. um, as an animistic, wild, witchy woman. She has years of experience working with the healing powers of nature. She's also she's the founder of Taproot Journeys, and she's a end-of-life doula, which means that she helps usher people into their next realm. Like some people call it a midwifing people to the next, to their next place they're going to go. She facilitates breath work. She's a celebrant, a ceremonialist, and all kinds of stuff. Drumming. She does drum circles, and she's in the Flagstaff, Arizona area now, but she's going to move to the Pacific Northwest, I understand. So anyway, without further ado, I'm going to let Madrone take over.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. My eyes are tearing because of allergies, so I'm not um, not that that's a bad thing, but just so you know. And then I might have to get up and shut the door at one point because my fur kids are peacefully sleeping here, but my wife is due to come home at any minute, and when that happens, there's going to be a mad rush to the door. So that's another thing. And then yeah, thank you for that introduction. It's always an interesting experience to listen to people introduce you. And I will say that one of the cool things about being part of a field that is emerging as an end-of-life doula is that we are creating what the field is. And so the field, I believe, and from the two, trainings I took, there is no formal like certification at this point nationally for end of life doulas, but there's a bunch of different certifications, right? I did one with the University of Vermont, and then 100 hours with a group in Southern California, um, called Sacred Crossings. And yeah, so when you're part of a group that's like or not reinventing, because way back in the day there was lots of end of life doulas, but in our modern time there hasn't been. And so there's all kinds of pieces of this, and some of it is like what Tina just mentioned, which is sitting bedside. And I am volunteering with our local hospice, and more of that will be forthcoming. The pieces that I've been really involved with so far have been more about being part of the death care revolution, as I call it. You'll see that in the presentation I'm going to give, and then also just being part of a movement that. Oh, I think we're seeing Patricia's or Petrushka's screen right now. Just being part of a movement that's I don't know. Do you want to stop sharing your screen a little bit? I don't think she meant to do that.
Who is sharing their screen?
Petrushka is.
Oh, let me see.
I think
Let's see. I wonder if there's a way I can control that.
Stop participants sharing. There we go.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
That's okay. I can see you don't know how it happened.
You can hear me? Now I can hear
Oh,
me.
now we can get,
But I can't see me up there. So I don't know. Okay, go carry on. It's taking me this long to at least be recognized, or I'm sorry. I want to be part of the group, but I'll have to wait until your spiel, okay? How's that? Baby.
Welcome back.
Oh,
Yeah, if everybody wants to go ahead and write in the chat maybe where they're zooming in from, we can get your voice that way if our Zoom isn't helping us do it the other way. So just as a bit of talking about like the different pieces of end of life work that people are doing. And my whole thing is about bringing life to conversations of death. And that by looking at both grief and our end of life while we're in our living time, we get a chance to enrich our time here on earth. That we get a chance to do that reflection before we're at the end of our life. I'm going to share my screen. I will still have the chat open. So feel free to ask me anything in the chat or to unmute yourself and just chime in a question. That's totally fine. That's the way I prefer it. So go ahead and type into the chat again, or just unmute yourself and ask me whatever you'd like. So we're going to talk a little bit today, like I said, about the death care revolution. And I'm going to first talk about the tasks for the living, then the process of human composting, and then the naming of that, and then we'll have some time for some questions. So revolutionizing death care and reimagining your life is sort of my passion, because conscious living starts now. And one of the best ways that we can do that is by looking at the end of our lifetime. So this all started, this particular walk down what is human composting on a trip with my dad. And so the places that that's my dad there, and the founder of Recompose, her name is Katrina Spade. And Katrina basically is the founding mother of this movement in the United States and really the world for industrialized human composting. So one of the tasks that we have as living people that makes our death easier for people that we love is to make some pretty big choices about after we die ahead of time. And one of those choices is about post-mortem disposition, or what we want to do with our bodies after we die. And it's much easier to deal with these important decisions when we're not trying to navigate the healthcare system or the sudden death of a loved one. So if we do this stuff ahead of time, it is a really big gift that we can give the folks that we love in our life. And so myself and a lot of other end-of-life doula folks are really about doing this much, much earlier than the statistical time that we do it, which is like 78 to 80, you know? So we're looking more at like, you know, starting this in our 40s, if not younger. So planning for what happens when you die is a huge part of living your life. And that's what people don't think about. And here in this photo, you see my dad and I standing by Recompose, and the vessels that people go into, and I'll explain more about those later, but I wanted to draw your attention to this picture. There's two places in Seattle. One is called Recompose, and one is called Return Home. And so I'll show you photos from both of them and talk about some of the differences. So for those that are in grief after we die, it's much easier to grieve and mourn if they aren't starting from scratch on your disposition with your funeral plans. Not to mention that pre-planning can help avoid conflicts with family members about what your intentions are, because we all know that exhaustion and grief can make for a mix that leads to a bunch of miscommunication. My dream is to have a communication and death and dying workshop at some point to sort of talk about how we can have healthier communication in these times of crisis, because people really get into it, because people are not their normal self at this time, right? And you know, believe me, there'll still be lots to do even if these things are laid out, but the major planning related to your disposition, and by extension, your funeral, memorial, etc., is a gift to your loved ones. And if it's been sketched out and written down and sometimes even paid for in advance, you're really giving them a huge help at a time when they are, I mean, the definition of bereaved is to be torn apart. So, you know, this is something that if you can do this ahead of time, really just a huge blessing. Here's Katrina holding some of the composted soil. So the process of human composting basically involves taking the human body that has not been embalmed and placing it in a vessel like this one you see behind Katrina. And that vessel has a mixture of alfalfa, hay, wood chips, or sawdust, some combination of organic material. And then they pump oxygen into that vessel. And that is all that is needed for your body to start decomposing. It's really fascinating. It doesn't take a lot. And I'll get to in a minute how this compares to some other methods. So actually I want to go back one. At that point, once you get put into the vessel, within 6 hours, your body's temperature raises to 150 degrees on its own and starts doing this process of decomposition on its own. So you are in that vessel for about 45 days. And then at 45 days, you are taken out of that vessel and they kind of piece out any metal that you've had in your body, because of course that won't decompose. So all your shoulders and knees and things like that, hips. And then also bones. The bones have to be crushed at that point. And that is the same for cremation and aquamation, which I'll talk about in a little bit. I didn't realize that they had to crush bone, that it didn't burn, and it won't decompose either. So, so they do that, and then they put you back into another vessel, and you sit for about 4 more weeks. At the end of that time, you look like the soil that Katrina is holding, and one body produces about the size of a pickup truck's amount of dirt. So that whole bed of that pickup truck is full. So at that point, you can decide if you want to have a plot somewhere. You can still put, you know, the soil in a plot. I know, wow, right? You can still put the soil in a plot somewhere. You can decide to put it by a tree and have a little marker. Your family can, if you have big gardeners, they can garden with you. There is no, like if they did a DNA trace on that soil she's holding, it would not show any human. Whereas if you DNA tested little fragments of bone after a cremation, it would show that it was you. By the time we are decomposed this way, there is nothing left of us. We're fully transformed. Yeah, so people can do whatever they want with that soil at that point. And kind of the cool thing is that it's not illegal to put soil in your backyard. So if you want to like have a memorial in your backyard to your loved one, you can do that with that soil. So it does free us up for some of the ways that we memorialize folks that we love. So this first set of photos is the vessel that they have at Return Home. Again, both these places are in Seattle, but this is legal in 12 states right now. And so including Arizona, where I am, and California, where I know some of the rest of us are, it's just taking some time for, of course, the facilities to get online. Nowadays, all of these facilities have to be in industrial areas. So, you know, they've got to find the space, and it costs a lot to get up and running. You can see in these photos here that Return Home, they use a square vessel. If you look in the lower, it's my lower right-hand corner. I don't know if it's your lower right-hand corner. There's a bunch of pictures. Okay, great. That somebody put on the vessel of their loved one, so that while they're there for those 3 months or 90 days, whatever it ends up being, those pictures are there. And they also turn the vessels, and they can play whatever music you like. I joked with my dad that we could play Christmas carols because he loves Christmas carols, and he did choose to be composted, so he's going to do this. And yeah, so you know, you can play the music you like, and they'll do whatever, really. This lower left-hand corner is a picture of how Return Home gives families the soil. It's in like little burlap bags. And I have a picture later on. You can get a small bag, or you can get like a big bag, or you can choose to have the soil donated to any environmental place that they are working with. So like Recompose works, in the past, they've worked with a place that's creating trees, so there's shade for salmon that are spawning, and you can put your soil there. And then these other pictures are just some examples. You know, that little white fabric is supposed to represent where a body would be, and you can put any kind of flowers, anything that's organic, shot of whiskey. You can put whatever you want in there with the person, as long as it is organic. The picture with the seats is the place where they have for like services. The lobbies on the upper left-hand photo. Yeah, so this is the second one that was built. Now, this next one is the first one that was built, and Katrina had her degree in architecture. So her facility, I feel like, you know, is definitely more aesthetic. They also have a place to wash the body. That is not a real body there. That's why I wrote that on the picture. But it's an example. And so it's really cool for those of us that are into doing our grief work and washing a body. And they have a whole sink there and everything. And you can just do your grieving and be with your loved one in this room. These other pictures just give you a feel for, like, again, the really pretty lobby. The feeling is more like a spa, I'm telling you. It's not like going into a funeral home. It feels like a spa. The upper left photo is what you would look like in the vessel. And then in the middle, lower right, kind of, you see where you'd have a service. And it holds about 30 people in there, so not too many. The other one holds more. About 30 people here, and then the body would be laying like it is in that top left photo, and for the service, and then it gets pushed through that door, which I just love, because people that know me know that I'm really into talking about thresholds in life. And so you cross this threshold, and then you're in that back room where you saw my dad and I standing, where all the vessels are. There's about 50 of them back there. So you cross that threshold to where you're going to be for the next 90 days. And then here are the containers that you get the soil with from Recompose. That paper bag gets pretty big, like the burlap ones. So there's, you know, pros and cons to both. You know, it's funny what people like. My dad was like, I kind of like the rectangular container. Like people just have their things that they're interested in. So as far as environmental choices go, does anybody have any questions on the process before I go forward? Everybody, yeah, go ahead, Beverly.
When you said they crush the bones, does that go somewhere else or do the bones go back into the soil? I didn't catch that quite.
Great question. It goes back into the soil and then it will biodegrade. It just can't biodegrade in that solid form. Yeah. And they have to pass a bunch of tests, from the state before that soil gets put in those bags to get returned to you. I did love at Return Home. They call up the loved one and they're like, they'll be like, Madrone's ready to return home. It's like the perfect little sentence. But so any other questions or anything that wasn't clear?
Everything was clear, and I'm finding this like so fascinating. It's really awesome. I'm really glad that you're giving this talk. It's really fascinating.
Yeah, I'm kind of I'm like on fire for talking about this. I find it to be just really one of the coolest things in a lot of different ways, both in terms of like what feels good for like the earth, but also the grieving process. So as an environmental choice, just to get that piece, because part of what I do in my other job is teach at a university, and I teach environmental communication. So purification of the soil is one reason why I really like recomposition option versus like green burial, where a body would be shrouded and put directly in the earth. Unfortunately, our bodies are really toxic at this point, from microplastics, antibiotics, the food we eat, et cetera, et cetera. Not to mention the filtration that's needed for working through medical treatments, like if we've gone through chemotherapy or something like that. So this makes human composting an environmental winner for those people who are concerned with earth care as it relates to the disposition of their body. And that's really kind of what got Katrina and them started in this path. And it is a really interesting story on how they got into it. That I don't have time to get into today, but happy to talk to anybody about that at some point. So I would say the environmental options, and this picture you can see on the left, the smaller bags of soil from Return Home. And then this is Recomposes building. And, like I said, they're in an industrial place and the whole place is boring. And then they've done everything they can to make it look like this. There's things planted out in front, the building is drawn on, it's like, it's way different. And so they're very conscious of like what they're communicating to people, for sure. The first I would say would be terramation. The second is aquamation, and aquamation is also really cool and new and coming online. And so this is basically, so terramation is earth, right? Aquamation, water. So cremation, fire. So you've got all your elements represented here. So for this one, the water goes just until boiling and all the organic material sloughs away into a slurry that's organic. They put a little sulfur in there, and that's the only other additive. It takes about 20, like I think 18 to 20 some hours. And then again, the bones will be left and they have to bake and crush the bones. And when you get remains back from aquamation, it's a fine white powder. If anybody has ever seen what cremation ashes look like, you know that they're more gray because they've been burned. So you can see the marks of fire versus water, of course, is more gentle, right? So I would say on line 3, I would put green burial and cremation. And I put those there just because the green burial, like I said, you have the body having to filter through the earth, but like right there instead of being in a container. And cremation, all of that toxin goes into the air. So that's like the con with cremation. And then number 4, traditional burial. Burial just really has a lot of things that go with it, right? Like the concrete that the coffin is put in, the actual coffin, the embalming, like all of that kind of stuff comes with traditional burial. So the last thing I want to talk about is something that is really important as we have new things coming out in the world. In my field, we talk about how language shapes the world around us. So the words that we choose to talk about things really matter. And we could talk about this related to gender, we could talk about it related to race, and we can talk about it related to terramation and human composting. All the words that we use are given meaning by the people. So the meanings are inside of us. They're not with the symbols, the letters that we put together to make that word. That's abstract, arbitrary, and ambiguous. Our language, unlike indigenous people, is not place-based, right? English language is not place-based. So it's very arbitrary. So all the meaning is ours to transfer to that symbol, to that word. So it's really important how we choose to name and shape this new disposition practice, because it's going to affect how people perceive it, right? So some of the names we have right now, of course, is human composting, which really says what it is. Humans getting composted. Terramation, Latin term for earth or land. Mation is process or action, hence the whole cremation, aquamation, right? Another popular term would be soil transformation. I feel like this one can be ambiguous, like you need to add body or human to it. Natural organic reduction, that's what's happening, but again, not necessarily clear it's happening for body disposition. Recomposting or recomposition. So each of these terms has a different feeling or a meaning depending on who you're speaking with. And what their views are on death and dying. So some people are going to be really repelled by human composting potentially, but if you say something like natural organic reduction, it sounds a lot more like pristine, right? Or environmental in some way. And I'm not sure which one is best at this point. It's just that I'm saying we need to think about who we're speaking to, what our audience is, and how it might feel in their hearts. When we speak about human composting, our brain naturally fills in the human part as that's what's being composted, and that can be challenging for people. Which brings me to this last part, which is when the death care revolution meets the multicultural belief maze. New ideas are super hard for people. I have been like test casing this with my parents, and what happened was a really interesting experience of my dad being gung-ho and my mom having a bunch of stuff for her come up that she was not okay with. And one of my coaches in death work, she said it was an important reminder, because it took my mom about a month to come around, that sometimes what seems like resistance is just about needing time, right? She just needed time to marinate in the new idea. Like all of us do, really. New things are not easy, right? It's hard. So the main reason I would say that people fear death is linked to this illusion that we have control. You know, the pandemic really reminded us we didn't have control, and how soon we forget. I feel like people are like, what pandemic, right? It was really just, 4 years ago that it started. So the realization that we can't control our death then increases fear. And so by going through what a person's choices are for their death care, they can feel more control. And in turn, that can lessen their anxiety about death and fear of the unknown. And I really saw this happening with my dad. He even said, he's like, it was almost like an out-of-body experience going to visit these places. And he said it was so much better than going when he would have been, if he would have been sick or, rushed in the process. The next thing that people really need to take into account is religion. Right now, the Catholic Church is not stamping approval on human composting, just like they in the past did not with cremation. So you have, and now they do. So, these things take time also. With the pre-planning process, it's interesting because statistically, folks that are doing pre-planning with composting are in their 50s. compared to that 76 to like 82 that I was talking about, that's the more traditional in the field. So I do think like for whatever reason, younger people are setting up their plans for this. It's actually not that expensive. I would say, I mean, that's all relative. But if you looked at a traditional funeral, even for cremation, if you were going to be put somewhere, you're looking at about $6,000. If I died tomorrow and wanted my body to go to recompose or return home, it's either $8,000 or $10,000. And that includes everything, getting me there and everything. If I lived in Seattle, so this is for lucky you, Beverly, it's $4,500. So it's, you know, not that awful. Cremation by itself, just doing it is $2,000, just to give you some perspective on that. Return home, it does not charge any person for their services if they are under 18. So they're literally doing this for free as a community service to young people that die. So, which I thought was super beautiful that they're doing that. All right, so I'm going to put my Substack that I wrote on this topic in the chat. And that way, if you want to read more, I have a couple of links. I have links to both places in Seattle and then an NPR article that you can listen to or read about the subject. Yeah, and so let me get out of this and I'll get your questions, Sarah. Go ahead.
I'm not sure if it was in your Substack or if I read elsewhere, but if you're able to confirm, I know you mentioned with Recompose, if like, for instance, Shannon just wanted a small container and the rest would go with places that they work with, and you mentioned the trees and the salmon. Wasn't there also something about, do they work with entities that work on like where our land is eroding? Did you ever read anything like that? Like restoration of land?
I don't know specifically about that, but
Okay.
like, as long as the only thing that they said to me was they just don't want people going, like, let's say you picked a restoration land project and they agree you can take Shannon's soil there. They don't want you using that as a memorial place.
Right.
So, you know, then it's like you've dropped her off and that's complete. You know, that's why it's like people keep some for their garden or put some in a or, you know, what have you. So I think that, I think you can do, I think it's really, again, it's like groundbreaking. We're in the beginning of this and there's a lot more freedom with this because like, you don't need permission to bring dirt on a plane with you. Permission to put dirt in the water or worry about soil hurting anything. You know, it's all organic and it's not invasive in that way. So there's a lot of things that are, you know, it's also probably not going to blow back into your face like ashes can do, you know. So, but, you know, it really, I think what's going to happen in the field is pretty soon when you go to a mortuary, this will be listed as one of the choices. And these places will be coming online to, not online, but you know what I'm saying, working with the funeral homes, yeah, to be offered to folks. There is a huge problem with space. We don't have enough space in the cemeteries for folks anymore. And so we have to come up with a different way to deal with body disposition. And this is a really great way to do that because it's organic. I mean, of course it has some impact because you have to have electricity in the space. Right. So there is that one thing that's happening. But you know, you're not polluting in so many of the other ways. So I think it's really up and coming. Go ahead. But is it
Petrushka.
Thank you.
Petrushka. Yeah. Are we good compost? I mean, what minerals and all that kind of good stuff do we add back our bodies?
All of it is, it's all good. So that's the beauty about composting. Have you ever composted?
Yeah, but not not turkey or chicken, it's always, but like me.
How it all started. This is the part that's like, they told us that at Return Home. It started because Katrina was asking and inquiring about this, right, for an environmental way to deal with human bodies. So they started with the, I forget the name of them, but they're the farmers that deal with mass kill-offs for like chicken, pig farming, all of that. When they have a flu or something that happens and there's 10,000 bodies they have to deal with. Those bodies are put into a pit, and then they basically use feces, right? That's how and then hay and all that kind of stuff, right? Well, that was never going to work for humans, right? So then they had to bring on the scientists and come up with the way to do that we would be able to get our brains around, right? Alfalfa, hay, oxygen, sawdust, wood chips. Okay, right? We're good with that. And yes, the soil that you saw the picture of it, I felt it. It has good nutrients in it. It's like good for gardening. It's got all the it's just like all the compost though. You do want to like cut it with some other soil because it's actually too rich. You know how that goes. Yeah, like I compost with a group here in town, and they'll give us a 5-gallon bucket of the compost every year if we want it, because we're contributing by giving them all of our scraps. And I'm not very green thumbish, and I don't even know what to do with that because it's like it's so rich, so nutrient rich. You really do have to like it's almost like diluting it. So yeah, we're good. We're still good, even with the skin.
What comes up is what came up when you were talking, and it was like kind of like probably what your mom went through, and it is like, could I do that for vegetables? Could I eat vegetables grown in in other words, I can feel myself not there yet, but
one sec. So this is exactly why talking about it is so important. Because we do have this block. It's what I would call like that separation of humanity from divinity, right? Seeing ourselves as earth we're not used to that at all, right? And so this really pushes on that button, right? That like you are earth and perfectly good to plant your carrots in. And it does, there's still, I mean, even for me, when I say it out loud, there's a slight like little cognitive dissonance or disconnect. And I'm like I said, I'm on fire for talking about this. So yeah, I think it is, and go check out my Substack. I'll put the link in there and read more about it, listen to the NPR story, and then just like sitting with it, I don't know where you're located, but if you get a chance to ever visit these places, it really changes how it changed how I felt. My dad as well. And that's why he really wants my mom to go visit there with him, because I think when you go there, it feels right. I don't know how else to say it. And we also went and visited a funeral home with them. We've been doing all of their end of life care. And this is the stuff that I want to help people with, right? Like we cataloged all of their household things with stories of every object in their house, so that when they're gone, their kids will know the history of what they're passing on, instead of being like, what's this thing that mom had, So all of these things, and we laughed, we cried, we learned about each other. And that's why I say it's really about enriching our living now. I'm so blessed I had that trip with my dad. I'm blessed we did all these things together, So yeah, thank you for those questions.
Can I just say one more thing? My sister died last year, and I went, but I was flown back to Colorado for that, and I'd never been to a burial, and she had mentioned she wanted to get buried in a certain place in Denver, and so her body was in a metal casket. The casket was then put in a metal container that was locked on all sides. That's about this thick. Square metal that's put into, and then that is strapped, down lowered. And so it's not just like a wood, you think, oh, wood's gonna compost. A lot of, and more expensive things, the metal container is what oftentimes I'm sure is used. I think wood would be more expensive. So it's even more crud underneath there, from our deceased. I mean, people who are dead have more power than women right now, so you know what I mean? Take care of this way, and I don't care what you have to live with, Anyway, thank you.
That's true. And I think, and it's not about like, I don't want to come from a space of like, even though I really feel like this is a cool thing, I like, that's why I give like the sort of like, if you're interested in environment, here's the order I think it goes in. And it really is a personal choice, because like all kinds of stuff come up. Like my mom doesn't want us taking any of her ashes. Like I would have taken some and put them in a little container and then buried some of the others. But she doesn't, she has a belief system. She wants everything intact, But like all these things come up, and they only come up if you have a conversation. And so, some people need that. They feel safe with that separation that you just mentioned of like the metal, the concrete, all of that stuff. And that is something that they feel like they need, right? Or have a desire for in their afterlife time in terms of their disposition. So.
That's great. And for those of us, like for me, living in California, you said it's legal here. Are there facilities here that are like the ones in Seattle?
California did just like they did with marijuana, and they made it legal, but said it wasn't coming online until 2027. So they gave it like, and sorry, with the marijuana example, that was of course back a few years, but they leaked a couple of years to kind of see what happens with the other places. So in 2027 in California, it's going to start to be, there'll be facilities. And when I was talking to these two, pretty sure their first places they're going is California.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Well, this is really interesting. Thank you so much, Madrone. Does anybody else have a question? Welcome, Jen. Jen came in right at the beginning of Madrone's presentation.
Hello. Thanks.
Hi.
I just wanted to say thanks. My 22-year-old had heard about Recompose and told me about it. And when I first heard about it, I was like, oh, it sounds cool, but like, I don't know, but hearing this presentation definitely is like, oh yeah, that would definitely be the way to do it. Like,
yeah.
I think about it, I used to be like, oh, I would like to be cremated and like tossed in the ocean. And it's like, oh, that would be bad. And like, but to be planted so you could help the salmon, which would then help the ocean, right? Like that feels like a lot better. That's cool.
Yes,
I love the idea. I really do.
Put the Substack in the chat so you can click on it, and it is free to subscribe. So it's going to say you have to subscribe, and that just means you'll get my Substacks. But please pass this on to people who have questions. Be like, you can read this and learn about it, yeah, so I'm glad that you found it interesting. I feel like it has a lot to do with self-love and self-care. It has a lot to do with how you love those in your life as well. As I try to communicate that, spending the time to look at these things now, however uncomfortable, as most of the good work that we do is uncomfortable, right? That push to growing happens. And I think we're better humans for having gone through that.
Do insurance companies acknowledge it as a thing? Okay.
So when you do the pre-planning with any company, it's just like a funeral home, which is essentially you're buying I forget what the term is, but it's like yeah, the insurance basically. Yeah.
A service or something. Yeah.
So yeah, and if you already paid for, let's say you paid for something already at a place, when you are gone, if you have expressed your wishes to like a family member that you would rather do this, they legally have to let you transfer what you prepaid for at another funeral home to this other funeral home, but you have to be dead already. So, all the little tricks. That's why you need an end-of-life doula.
Yes. Yes. So, and we had 3 of them as authors in the book, The Life-Changing Power of Self-Love. There was Madrone, and then also Michelle Vesser and Annie Mark. So, um, all right. Well, in my work in helping people cultivate self-love, I wanted to let you guys know that I'm going to be teaching a online course 6 weeks on Tuesday nights called The Art of Putting Yourself First. And at next month's, this is something I've gotten really good at that I used to be really bad at. I used to be the opposite of, I'd never put myself first. And now it's really, and it's not like a selfish thing. It's like really making sure my needs are met first. Um, and I'm going to give a little preview of that at next month's Wise Women Circle, and that's on October 20th. So I'm going to be the speaker next month, and which I'm really excited about. And so I'm putting in the chat like a link to that class. It's my first time teaching it, and so the first 10 people to sign up, it's like really cheap. It's $125 for 6 weeks or something like that. So super cheap, or $100. I can't remember. Anyway, you'll see it when you go in there. And then I also teach with my teachers, Jeremy Pager and Stephanie Urbina Jones, the online journey of through the Toltec Medicine Wheel of Transformation, and it's how I found my self-love, and it's kind of a taste of their bigger program, and that starts tomorrow night. So, and I highly recommend that. That's really, really powerful, online for 8 weeks. You go through the medicine wheel of your life, and oh, you get an error with that? Huh. Okay. Well, you can go to my website, exposingtheroots.com, and get to it pretty easily right from the homepage too. That's interesting. I'll have to check that out. But anyway, so I have those things coming up, and I wanted to let you know about them. And I'm really excited about them. So I know that Jen's going to be participating in the online class, and anybody else that wants to join, love to have you. It's going to be on Tuesday nights at 5 o'clock Pacific time. So you can adjust that to wherever you are. And anyway, so Madrone, thank you so much for coming. And thank you, Madrone, for this presentation. I really, really loved it. And it was super interesting. When she told me what she was going to talk about, I was like, oh yeah, I want to know about that. And I found it really interesting also to like the whole green burial, and to kind of really compare it to that concept, and how much more environmentally friendly it is doing the human composting.
Yeah. If it weren't so toxic, it would be
yeah. So Madrone is going to take us out of the call, and thank you all for coming. And happy fall.
Happy fall, and thank you again for coming. I did want to tell everybody that on November 3rd, I'm going to have an online election intention grounding circle before we get into the whole election season. That will be the following few months after that. Regardless of what's going on, we know it's going to go for a bit. So I really would love to have a lot of us powerful goddess women there. So So I put my webpage in the chat. It's just taprootjourneys.com. And if you go to events, you can see that there. And then I also in December will be having a winter solstice and grief webinar that's going to be coming up. But if you sign up for like if you go to my webpage, you can sign up for my mailing list or whatever. And so you'll see that there. So yeah, thank you so much. And I'm just going to read from this little book here, which I love, this Molly Reamer. It's 365 Days of Goddess. It's just kind of uncanny how everything, when you open up the day, it seems to like match. Very divinatory, I feel like. Okay, so it says, today is another chance to open ourselves up to our own lives, to feel it all, to welcome in inspiration, to dance with joy, to sit with sadness, and to listen with curiosity. Today is another opportunity to live with our hearts wide open, to be alive with magic and present with presence. I presented, and present with presence. Today is another invitation to remember that our lives are holy now, which is exactly what I was communicating in my presentation. So thank you so much for coming to Tina's awesome Women Wisdom Circles.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Madrone, I just listened to Chris Williamson on Facebook. Are you familiar? You said you had a wife. I don't know if you, Chris, C-R-I-S Williamson. She did a, get out and vote, and she's a wonderful, awesome musician from the 70s, for, where I got early on. But anyway, check her out on Facebook as far as the intention of, I really appreciate your communication, your words, and so forth that you do. It very about we have to do very good work with that, don't we?
Appreciate it. Blessed be.
All right. Thank you, Madrone. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Bev.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Petruska.
Thank you.
Good
We'll see
night.
you next month.
Good
Did somebody
night.
want to say something? Oh, good night, you said. Okay. Good night.